Hello.
Thank you.
Welcome to a special episode of Coffee with Kai, Real Estate Conversations over Coffee. And since May is Military Appreciation Month, I just want to take a moment to recognize not only those who serve our country, but also the families that stand behind them every step of the way. Today, I am honored to sit down with Lea Ann Cunningham of the Villages, Florida. She's a proud military mom, a world traveler, community advocate, and someone whose story reflects the pride, strength, and heart behind military families. Lea Ann, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Aw, thank you, Kai. I appreciate the invitation. I always look forward to having coffee with you or
I
tea.
know, right? Or tea, right?
Or
Yeah,
tea.
Leanne's a big tea drinker. And I mentioned some of this in the introduction, but I really want to talk further about why I invited you today to have this conversation. Well, first of all, you're married to your wonderful husband, Greg, for over 38 years. So that in and of itself, we could do a whole episode on, staying married that long. But not only that, raising two wonderful children, Ian, who is official, I mean, it's a long title. He's the Army Company Commander Captain Ian Cunningham. And then you have your beautiful daughter, Abigail, who is a clinical assistant three and a trainer in the medical field down here in Florida. And that's phenomenal. But then you also went out and got yourself a bonus son, who is a naval officer, Lieutenant Ethan Ritchie. And then the final straw is your soon-to-be mother-in-law to Cassidy. So that's a lot of titles for someone to
It is a lot of titles. I mean, you could add CEO of the Cunningham household. And unfortunately, I don't get paid to do any of this. I mean, I guess paid in like phone calls, text messages, that type of
right, and all that good stuff. And then not only that, you've been so active with Ian when he made his decision to service country. And then you just jumped in, as you do everything, with both feet and said, all right, we got this. Um, so as we open, I like to always start with, a little funny, something to talk about. So before we really get into everything else, what's one moment with Ian that just makes you laugh every single time you think about it?
So we need to go back to August of 2016 for this moment. Ian is a brand new fish at Texas A&M in the Corps of Cadets. So a
What is
fish,
a fish? Yeah.
so a
Okay.
fish
Sorry.
is a freshman in the Corps of Cadets. They're not even allowed to be called a freshman, so they don't have even that privilege. So they are a fish. They are newly swimming in the ocean of Corps Cadet and military life. And
Okay.
so, as a new fish, he would have to go up to the upperclassmen, and the seniors are called zips. And you know a zip by their beautiful, very expensive leather boots. And they would have to stand toe to boot and put their hand out. And this is called whipping out. I know it's a very, very funny term. The things that we learned from Texas A&M prepared us for military life. So he would have to whip out and say, Fish Cunningham, sir or ma'am. And then the upperclassmen would ask him a series of questions, and he would have to rattle off this long, like paragraph that he had to learn verbatim. And he would get into trouble if he didn't know it. And at the end, the upperclassmen would ask him a question, something, I don't know, out of the ordinary. And so Ian's favorite question, my favorite question, was Fish Cunningham, what does your mama call you? And he would say, the reason she drinks, sir. And if the upperclassmen laughed or got a kick out of whatever he said, then he would get special privileges. Ian had the most privileges of any fish in the entire fish class because of that one statement. So that year for Christmas, he got me a sign that says, buy your mother a margarita. You're the reason she drinks.
Oh my gosh. That might top all of my stories. Like that's a great one. And at their wedding, I'm gonna, ask him, hey, Fish Cunningham, what does your mama call you? See
Yes.
what he says. Oh
Oh, I
my gosh.
guarantee you, he will stand a little taller. He will probably put his hand out and he'll say, "The reason she drinks, ma'am."
So besides that, that's great. So besides his wonderful sense of humor that he obviously got from his mother, right? Um, tell me more about Ian. What's he like? What's he really like?
He has been always my black and white child. There is no gray area. Very determined, very persistent. He has known, I would say, since he was about 12 or 13 years old, exactly what he was going to do in his life. Um, always really focused on the next challenge. Just really like perseverance.
Wow.
Perseverance. A challenge is faced head on, and hopefully, I think, and he learns from any challenge that he's been given. So yeah, that's my son in a nutshell.
That that's awesome. That is great. And that has that determination and that drive has actually helped him in his military career move very quickly through the ranks, correct?
That is correct. I can say that he was just chosen for Project Warrior, which is a very coveted position where he will be training when they do. So the military do like month-long trainings, and he will be one of the trainers that will be taking on the responsibility of training for warfare and creating policies for warfare, which is
Wow.
amazing.
That is that's fantastic, Leanne. So what made him decide to do this? What was was there a deciding moment or defining moment where he's like, this is what I want to do? Or is he like so many other young people are like, I don't know, maybe I'll just go into the service. But you say he's driven, so I highly doubt that.
Yes. So definitely driven. So when we put him in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, he was very focused on becoming an Eagle Scout. And we completely supported that and spent lots of nights doing badges and camping, not me camping. My husband was
Yeah.
doing the camp. I did the badges.
Right.
And so he at the age of like 12, 13, we were doing citizenship in the nation. And lucky us, we lived outside of Washington, D.C. So it was really very easy to do these things. So, in fact, the picture of him with Ronald Reagan, which happens to be his favorite president, was on one of those trips into D.C. To do a badge. And so there's multiple things you have to do for the badges. And so we were actually at the World War II memorial, and he just was like sobbing, like tears as a 12, 13-year-old boy behind his sunglasses. And I was like, "Ian, are you okay?" He goes, I am a patriot. I believe in my country. I want to be a soldier." And that was it. And it really is from Boy Scouts. You learn what to do and what not to do, and he just that was it. That was the defining moment. And the one picture is with him and his best friend Josh, who is actually an officer in the Marines. So we are surrounded by all of these amazing young men and women. And I think that was Josh's Eagle Scout ceremony actually. So because Ian was the youngest Eagle Scout in our troop at the age of 13.
Oh my
So
gosh.
again, very driven, very
Yeah.
focused. Let's just get this done. And then I can go on to mentor other people so that they too can achieve Eagle Scout because it's not easy.
Right. Oh, no, it's a very grueling and dedicated process that you have to go through to do that. So you were
Very
dedicated
time
also.
consuming.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you asked
Yeah.
Abigail, we were too dedicated.
Yeah. What about me, Mom?
Yeah,
Um,
she was like, "Oh,
but
great, another Boy Scout
oh,
function. I'm so
yeah.
excited."
Awesome. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's funny. So, well, do you come from a military family? Was he exposed to that with anyone in the family?
So my dad was in the Air Force, but
Oh, okay.
by the time that I came around, he was already out. So we didn't really talk a lot about it. It wasn't until his later years, once Ian was already commissioned, that he really started to talk more about it. He had a great experience, but that was a different part of his life. And then
Yeah.
my favorite uncle was a naval officer. And he was more than happy to sit down and talk to Ian about everything. So I think too with Ian, he was like, there are two big role models in my life, his PB, my dad,
Mhm.
and my uncle. He's like, I want to be like them. I mean, they've
Well,
accomplished so much in their lives. And he said, I really do think it was because of that military background, that um, knowing what you needed to do to make a difference.
well, and Greg's family too has first responders, right? His dad was
Yes.
a police officer, his brother
Yes.
was a police officer.
Police
So there's,
officer. Yes.
yeah, so there's a lot of service in, your family. So it does kind of make sense that that would be a progression for him. But let's go back. So he's 13 years old and he's like, that's it, I'm going to serve. And you're like, yeah, 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 sure you are. You're 13. We got a ways to go. But then he says, "No, mom, this way I'm going to do." So tell me what is that moment like when as he's a senior in high school and he comes to you and says, "This is what I'm doing." As a mom, what how did that feel?
So, so he was a junior in high school, and we did the great spring break college tour. We thought he was going to go to Ohio State, which he still would have been able to have been in the ROTC program. So that was his focus. He wanted to go to school and be in an ROTC program. Texas A&M was not even in our thought process. And so we were very supportive. ROTC, it's a great way to do it. Again, with him being a very black and white type of thinker, it's a great way to go through school. Plus, bonus, he gets scholarships for being in
Right?
ROTC.
Yeah.
We were very supportive. And, we weren't thinking at that time really about the military service part of it. It was like we needed to take it in chunks. We needed to get him through high school and then through college and then go on to the next step. I think those 4 year program back when he first started talking about it was like, okay, this is a great way for us to slowly get ready for the next step. But we knew. I mean, there was no. I don't even think there was any thought process of us trying to discourage him. If this is what you truly want to do, if this is what will make you happy, then we 100% support you.
So along those same lines, what is something that people don't realize about being a military parent? Like
Um,
what was the one thing that you were like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know."
So it's really interesting. A Zip mom, actually his fish year, and I became very, very good friends. She was amazing, amazing lady. And she told me the number one thing is to be flexible. You have to be Gumby. And she actually gave me a little Gumby doll to remind myself you have to be flexible because it's not like it's not like a 9 to 5 job Monday through Friday. They literally live, eat, breathe the military 24/7, 7 days a week. Like, I mean, 365 days, I should say, 24/7,
Yeah.
365. That even when he does have some time off, he's still on the phone. He's still talking to his first sergeant. Plans have to be changed and remade and forgotten because things come up. Um, I mean, we had our Christmas tree up until the end of March one year
Yeah.
because he was deployed. And I was determined that we were going to have Christmas when he came home. And his deployment was supposed to end at a certain point, and it didn't. And then, he came home in March. Unfortunately, we were on a cruise, so we weren't around when but again, the flexibility, the flexible, we kept thinking, oh, he's going to come home, he's going to come home. And then he said, I'm coming home in April. And he didn't come home in April. He came home while we were on a cruise. So
Yeah.
got to be Gumby, got to be flexible.
Yeah. So is that the hardest part? What do you think what's the hardest part of being a military parent?
The hardest part is not having necessarily access to him when we would like to have access to him. Like when he's deployed, there were times when we would go weeks without talking to him. And you just have to keep in the back of your mind that, this is what they train for, that if something happens, he'll be fine. This is what he goes to all those trainings for, and that's what they do every day is they, muscle memory training. Um, so that really is the hardest part. Like I'll text him and it's like, good Lord, why don't you text me back? Well, I don't know what he's doing today. I mean, he could be out in the field and I have no idea. So that I think that's the hardest part is not having like a set schedule where I know on the weekend
Yeah.
I can get in touch with him.
Yeah. Well, and I know there's several times where you and I have talked and I'm like, where's Ian? And you're like, I'm not allowed to tell you. I,
Yeah.
you know, I
The
don't
yeah.
know, or if I do, like, I can't tell you. Or he says he's here, but we don't know. And just I
Yeah.
would think that the not knowing, not I'm not trying to, put words in your mouth, but I would think the not knowing would be
Yeah.
really difficult too.
That is very difficult, especially during deployment. Like we kind of knew a general area of where he was. We didn't know what country he was in, but
Mhm.
like we would talk to him, we would actually get a FaceTime and he would say, "Oh, it's really cold here." And then, the mom in me is like, what areas are really cold right now? Where in the world could Ian possibly be?
Right.
So,
Uh,
it's really difficult. I don't want to really say secrecy, but it is, there are certain things when they are in training or they are deployed that you really have to watch what you say to people because you can't put anything in writing. You can't put anything on social media. And so a lot of our friends who I don't see to like talk to personally face to face had no idea that Ian was deployed. Like
yeah.
none. And they would text me and they'd say, "Hey, how's Ian doing?" And I'd be like, "Great, as far as I know."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not I couldn't put as far as I know, but that's how
Right.
I felt.
Yeah. Right. That I would think as a mom also that would be the hardest part is the not knowing. But you're right. They train for this. Like you just have to have faith in the process and
Exactly.
and all of that.
Exactly.
But so you mentioned like your friends and stuff. So what does it mean to you to have a community that is so um patriotic? I feel like in the villages, like people are very patriotic. I mean, I'm looking out my window and we had somebody in the neighborhood, it wasn't me, and then I felt bad because it wasn't me, put flags out because this past weekend was uh, the anniversary of something, and I feel bad that I don't remember what it was. But there's
Armed
always
services.
armed
Yeah,
services.
armed
That's it.
services.
It was yes. But what does that mean? How does that make you feel being down here, just surrounded by so many veterans? And
It is really heartwarming to see the amount of American flags that are, flown on houses, um, put out, for all of these, military holidays, which it's not just, I mean, it's not just the military. I mean, it's for our country.
yeah,
It's really lovely to see all of that and to know that there are so many groups here that if if I needed anything, I
Mhm.
feel that I could get in touch with any of the groups. I mean, I don't even know them by name, but if I needed something, I think if
Yeah.
Ian needed something or Ethan needed something, I could pick up the phone or I could text one of them and say, "Hey, can you help
Yeah.
me with this?" That means so much. And and to put that into perspective for like Ian, he lived on base for his first duty station, which was at Fort Hood. And that was amazing. During his deployment, I would go up there, all of his neighbors. Everybody looks out for everybody. And I couldn't make it up for a couple of weeks, and they drove his truck for him so that his truck
Yeah.
wasn't sitting there. These are things that you don't think about during a deployment. I would have never thought about it, that you
No.
can't just leave your truck sitting there, for a year. His next door neighbor, who's a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, her name is Hope. She's lovely. She was deployed at the same time. So when I would go up to check on Ian's house, I would go to her house. She had a flood, of course,
Oh,
because a
of
pipe
course.
burst because it
Uh,
it froze. And I just could go to anybody. And there was such support. And I feel the same way here as I did
mhm.
on base, that I'm fully supported in whatever I need.
Yeah. Well, and along those same lines, because Jeff, my husband, is retired Air Force, that we are really involved in the American Legion Post 347 here in the Villages. And it is, no lie, they advertise this, it is the largest American Legion post in the world. The
That's amazing.
auxiliary has almost the auxiliary, not even like active Legion members. It has almost 3,000 members of their auxiliary. So you're right in that at any time we can call and get support of any kind, any kind. Um, it's just wonderful. So I'm so glad to hear you say that also. Um, so what would you want maybe other people to understand about military families? Because it's not just you as a mom, not just Greg, but it's also Abigail. I mean, think about, how it affects the entire family and his dog. I mean, his dog had to be with you for a year. And
Yes.
then your dog had, this other dog, there's the fur baby thing too. So, what's something that you want other people to understand about military families?
So, I think that's the thing. When one of your family members is in the military, it really encompasses everybody's life,
Yeah.
because you've got the worry, you've got the pride, um the again flexibility. Like my daughter, she's not the most flexible person in the world, but I think she has learned flexibility in that Ian is not always going to be available um, when she wants him or needs him, and so she too has to kind of wait in line.
Hmm.
um, I think, my dad too. My dad would have loved to have seen Ian more often, but he also understood, the things that are, going on in Ian's life. It's not always easy for him to just, say, "Hey, I'm taking a couple of days off." But I think too, you know, as a military family, you really do count on your friends to be your sounding board,
Hmm.
because you can't always, again, I keep going back, you can't always have access to your family member who's a military person.
Hmm.
So you count on your friends and your other family to be your sounding board. Like
Yeah.
my bonus son Ethan was just deployed, um, couldn't talk about it, and he, had to leave his wife and our bonus grandbaby. Um, while he was deployed. And so I made sure to touch base with Michelle as often as I possibly could without being the annoying,
Yeah.
mom, um, just to make sure that she was okay. but they live in the state of Washington. So again, the distance is really great.
Well, and I think too, like if we have something planned, we have a cruise or a vacation planned together, and all of a sudden you look at me and go, guess what? Ian's coming home. It's like we have to understand that you're not going to be able to do that with us because you now have a moment to spend with him that, as you've said throughout this, you don't always have those moments. So I
Right.
think for other people, outside people, hey, if you cancel, you can't take it personally. It's you have to understand it's been a while. I need to see him when I can. And then for his wife also to understand, he also hasn't seen his soon to be wife. And when they're married, then it's like they have to, they're now a
Exactly.
family. Like it is very complicated. And I don't think people really think about that. They think, oh, it's great. He's in the military and oh, he got a free education. And it's like, yeah, it's a whole lot more than that.
It's a whole lot more. And how many people actually go um, a year and a half without seeing their family member unless they're like extenuating circumstances.
Right.
Most people who are close, I mean, we are an extremely close family. Um, I don't like to go more than a couple of months without seeing him. In fact,
Right.
we're leaving in a couple of weeks to go see him. And then we're going to be home for a month, and I'm going to go back out and see him again. And then he's getting married, and I'll see
And
him
then
again.
yeah.
Um, so that separation, where there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. A
Mhm.
year and a half. I mean, those deployments are they're brutal. They're
They
really.
are. Yeah. I can't imagine. I only know from you, like, and how hard, how difficult that is. So, what is something that he does to this day that still just makes you smile? And you're like, there he is. There's my little guy.
So, so this is really difficult for people outside of Ian's and my relationship to understand. We pick on each other. Like we totally pick on each other. And sometimes it can come off as being a little mean, but we don't mean it that way. It's our love language. And Cassidy, when she first came into the family, when she first was starting to date Ian, she would look at him and say, "Why, why are you being so mean to your mom?" And he goes, "What? I'm not being mean to her." And so I had to take her aside and say, "It's okay. Like he and I do that to each other. We're not being mean.
Yeah.
That is our love language." And if he ever stopped, I'd be like, "Are you mad at me? Like, what's going on?" Yeah, so that's kind of our little in. I would never do that with Abigail. It would hurt her feelings. Um,
Yeah.
because she's heart on your sleeve type of person, more of an empath. Ian and I we're alike, like very much alike in that.
Oh, that's great. Well, Leanne, thank you so much for being here and, being just open and honest about what it's like to be the mom of someone in the military. And to everyone else, just one more thought before your coffee gets cold. This month, especially, is about recognizing not just those who serve, but the families behind them. And if you know a military family, take a moment to reach out. It means more than you think. Cheers.